welcome back to Brashonomics. People who are looking to accomplish goals go about they take a different road. Everybody, that's it. Everybody takes a different road to similar and different places. And Ian Bell is here. Ian, you've actually kind of taken a different road in real estate in that you really focus on working with buyers, and that's not something a lot of people do. A lot of agents kind of take whatever's coming to them. And not only does Ian Bell work exclusively with home buyers, but you've done a pretty good job. In fact, Seattle Magazine has recognized you for the last 7 years. Welcome back, Ian.
Thanks a lot, Ben.
Well, our pleasure. So, first of all, help us maybe understand, why would somebody choose to only work with buyers and not, kind of cover the entire gamut? What's that specialization like?
I think generally it's a one-stop shop. The people that we deal with are normally coming to the Seattle area, and a lot of listing agents sort of geographically divide up their farming area, basically what they call it, and you don't want to be passed off from one listing agent to another. So if you have a central agent who just works with buyers and covers the whole of sort of Puget Sound area, it's a one-stop shop. They get to see the same houses. You have no conflict of interest in trying to sell them one house over another. So it's a pretty good service for someone that is looking for independent representation and is someone who's working 100% in their best interest.
And that representation really does matter, because versus having somebody in their office who's trying to sell one house, and then you have the buyer's agent trying to, who's friends, they go out to lunch. I mean, it really is, like you say, it's that kind of exclusive representation.
Exactly. You want to avoid that dual agency scenario where the person that's representing the buyer and the person that's representing the seller are actually both attached to the same office. So,
what do you see in working with buyers right now? What are some of the biggest questions and issues that are coming up?
I think mainly people are looking for a deal. Just about, I'd say 90% of the buyers that we have looking for a really good deal. They're looking at short sales. They're looking at foreclosures. Nobody really wants to pay market rate for a house right now.
And so when people are going into this phase of their life where they're buying, right? I mean, this is their path. They're choosing to buy a house, and there's so many different ways that people can go. And you talked about, before you came on the air, about this buying a short sale, because we've talked a lot about listings and the process by which people have to go through in order to sell their house. But when people are looking to buy a house, there's bumpy paths, there's good paths. I mean, people have to figure out what they want, don't they?
Yes, they do. And short sales are a really good example because, from my own personal opinion, I think that it's full of misleading advertising. The price that they're advertised for, you can't guarantee that's the price you can get the house for. And it's a really bumpy path. And anybody going along that route, my advice to them and all my clients who we do represent in short sales is you need to be very patient, and you need to be very understanding, and you need to have a good idea of what the seller is going through and what the process is behind the whole short sale.
And so what does that look like for a buyer? I mean, take us down that path that somebody could expect.
Okay, I think the first thing you want to look at is when it's listed as a short sale and you see the price, it might actually not be a short sale.
No kidding.
No, that's the
new on sale, huh?
That's the new on sale. If it says short sale or guaranteed short sale, it doesn't mean a thing. Because a short sale is only guaranteed once the seller's lender has actually accepted an offer on a property. Anything before an offer comes in, it's not a short sale. And just because a lot of people define the short sale as the house is not worth, if you sell the house, it's not worth what's owed on it, that's only a mathematical short sale. A real short sale is the seller has to prove that he's in financial difficulty, and the lender actually has to agree to a short sale and some debt write-off. So just because a property says short sale, it's an advertising slogan.
I mean, it really doesn't. It's not a short sale till it closes, and the bank doesn't get all the money.
Exactly.
That's an interesting thought. And so when you're working with buyers who go through to purchase a short sale, it's the big red on sale flag. It's the rollback prices. It's it's marketing.
It is, and it's misleading marketing. If you look at the prices, my own personal opinion again, every short sale should be listed at $1. Because you'll see a listing and it says short sale, $199,000. Well, that $199,000 is a number that's made up between the seller and the listing agent. And the listing agent does a fairly good job. He'll look at local market comps and trying to come up with a reasonable idea. But in the end, it's an advertising figure. And that more than likely is not the price you can actually buy the house at. And it's
like a car.
Yeah, when I say like a car or a TV, if, the car ads...
It's like Black Friday every day in the short sale world.
Exactly. And, if you say, oh, yeah, we have Corvettes on sale this weekend for $20,000, and you rush down there to buy one for $20,000, and the guy says, yeah, it's $20,000, but I need to get the approval from GM first. And, oh, I'm sorry, they come back and say, no, sorry, it's $35,000. Well, that's misleading advertising. It's bait and switch. And in any other advertising, it's illegal. In the short sale world, it's not.
Why? That is, we've talked a lot about this. And I think that it really is kind of this false advertisement.
Yes. In my personal opinion, there is no other way of describing it. You cannot put the price there because you don't know what the price is that's going to be accepted by the lender.
And like you said, if you were to advertise it for that $1 and the bank were to accept it, it'd be fantastic because, hey, the seller gets out of it, the bank accepts the $1, and now granted, they'd put us mortgage guys out of business with $1 houses, but I guess you can go to Detroit for that.
Yeah, well, it's just a matter of the difference. That's all. If you put it $199,000 or you put it $1, the plain fact is it's not the price that the house can be bought at.
So talk about the process a little bit more and how that kind of goes, how the offer goes down the line. Because as you said, the listing agent isn't controlling it and the seller isn't controlling it.
That's correct. You've got to start off knowing that it's a really stressful time for the seller. A lot of the times they've moved out of the house. Some of the times they've not. They still have an emotional attachment. And they're going through bankruptcy. They're going through extreme financial difficulty. So you have to be aware of that. But once you put the offer in, it's fairly common that you get an answer from the seller very quickly. And there is not that much incentive for the seller not to agree to your price. They're just looking for an offer to present to the bank. So that happens, as in a regular sale, you'll get that back in a couple of days. Then what happens is it gets submitted to the lender's loss mitigation department and to a short sale negotiator, and that's where you lose control of it because you legally have no contact with that seller's lender. The seller still owns the house. You cannot talk to his financial people. It's against the law. So you have no correspondence with them. You can't talk to them on the phone. You can't write to them. They'll ignore you.
And so you really end up kind of going down this windy path from beginning to end. I mean, you just don't know where it's going to end almost. It's a kind of a blind ending.
It's a bit nebulous. Once the offer goes in, it's very common not to hear anything from the lender for at least anywhere between 2 to 3 months. So your buyer normally gets a little bit anxious after, no matter how much you tell them it's going to take 3 to 5 months to get this deal closed. Round about month 2, they start to get anxious. Haven't we heard anything? Not even an email.
The wives have bought curtains, and the nursery's ready to go in. You got life going on.
Yeah, that's the advice I try to give to my clients. The way to buy a short sale is don't get your heart on the house because it's one of those. It's like a girlfriend. Your heart's going to be really easily broken.
Short sales are like girlfriends. They're going to break your heart.
Yeah.
So what about the success rate? I guess you go through a few girlfriends in your life. Maybe you marry one. Mm-hmm. So you, in that same, with that same analogy or metaphor, what's the success rate in that short sale world? Putting those offers in and making it happen?
Depending on where you find your statistics, and they vary wildly just because there's a real lack of detailed information. but generally it's anywhere between 30 and 50%. And so at least 50% fail. And my own personal opinion, it's probably more like 70% don't actually make it to closing.
Well, we're here with Ian Bell, president of First Exclusive Real Estate. And so any kind of last advice, somebody who's thinking about going down that road, they're married to the deal, but maybe can't find the house?
Yeah, let's go back to the girlfriend analogy. It's picking a girlfriend that you like or a few girlfriends that you like and say, yeah, I could marry any one of those.
It's like The Bachelor.
Exactly, but I'm not setting my heart on that particular one because the deal may go through, it may not go through. So even when our clients have put an offer in on a short sale house, my advice is keep looking because that deal can easily fall through and you need to have 3 or 4 more in the background just as backup.
Well, Ian, thanks so much for joining us. Again, that is Ian Bell of First Exclusive. When we come back, a lot of people have gone through the buying process, or people are actually selling their house via short sale, and they're coming up with some financial issues maybe they didn't expect. Larry Feinstein's going to join us, and we're going to talk a little bit about bankruptcy and what people can expect in that process. My name is Ben Brashen. That was Ian Bell. You're listening to Brashenomics.